Happy New Year, everybody. My name is Lily Dite. I'm on the publicity team over here at Soho Press, and I'm excited to welcome you back to the lineup. If you've joined us before or if this is your first time joining us, welcome. This is a digital event series dedicated to showcasing our Soho Crime authors, and we partner with Mystery to Me Bookstore, which is based in Madison, Wisconsin. And this is our third year of lineup events, so we're really grateful for the community that we've grown here. It's nice to see you all again. Some familiar faces are in the chat today. It's wonderful that you've come back to join us. We have a great event for you today. But of course, before I introduce you to the authors that are joining us, I have to do a little bit of housekeeping. At the bottom of your screen, there will shortly be a little green button that will take you to a link to buy the books. If you are interested in beginning a new series, which is kind of our whole mission today, we encourage you to purchase them directly from Mystery to Me because it helps support the store, it helps keep the series going, and it makes these authors very happy. So thank you for joining us. By attending a lineup event, to thank you, we'll give away 3 gift cards at the end of the event to Mystery to Me Bookstore, just to keep the good vibes going all around. So make sure you're staying till the end, and we will announce the winners, and then we will email the folks who won to give them the instructions on how to redeem those gift cards. And then finally, there's a Q&A button on the right side of your screen. It's a little question mark in a quotation box. At any point during the event, if you have a question for Marcie or Ed or Naomi, please feel free to drop it in there or drop it in the chat, and I will collect all of these questions and give them at the very end of the event. So thank you for being here. I'm so excited to introduce you, or maybe reintroduce you to our authors today. First of all, we have Naomi Hirahara, who is the Mary Higgins Clark Award, Edgar Award, and Lefty Award winning author of Clark and Division and Evergreen. The Marcie Mystery Series, including Summer of the Big Bocce, was a Publisher's Weekly Best Book of the Year, and the LA-based Ellie Rush Mysteries. A former editor of the Rafu Shimpo newspaper, she has co-written nonfiction books like Life After Manzanar and the award-winning Terminal Island: Lost Communities on America's Edge. She and her husband make their home in Pasadena, California, and her new novel, Crown City, is out on February 24th. Naomi, thank you for joining us again. Ed Lin is a journalist by training and an all-around stand-up kind of guy. He's the author of 4 other novels in the Taipei Night Market series, Ghost Month, Incensed, 99 Ways to Die, and Death Doesn't Forget, as well as 5 other novels. Lin, who is of Chinese and Taiwanese descent, is the first author to win 3 Asian American literary awards. He lives in New York with his wife, actress Cindy Chung, and son. His novel, The Dead Can't Make a Living, is out on April 7th. Ed, thanks for joining us. This is your first lineup. We're very happy to have you. And Marcie Rendon is an enrolled member of the White Earth Nation, a Pinkley Prize-winning author, playwright, poet, freelance writer, and community arts activist. Rendon, who was awarded the McKnight Distinguished Artist Award for 2020. She is a speaker on Native issues, leadership, and writing. Her second novel in her Cash Blackbear Mystery Series, Girl Gone Missing, was nominated for the Sue Grafton Memorial Award. Rendon was recognized as a 50 over 50 changemaker by Minneapolis AARP and Pollen in 2018. She lives in Minneapolis. Her newest novel, Broken Fields, is out in hardcover now and will come out in paperback in February 3rd.
It's out. It's out in paperback.
It's out. It's out now.
Yeah.
Marcie, thanks for joining us again. We had you here not too long ago, so we're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to shut up, and Ed and Marcie and Naomi are going to take turns introducing you to their series that they have been working on, including the new installments that they are getting ready to put into the world, or in Marcie's case, are already out. We're going to start with Ed. Thank you, Ed, for going first.
Oh, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much to Soho and Mystery to Me, of course. Well, you've heard my bio. I'm Ed Lin, a journalist by training, and my series is set in the night market of Taipei, Taiwan, this self-ruling island in the Pacific off the coast of China, which claims Taiwan as a renegade province and a territory to be annexed by force if necessary. And you would think that there are a lot of grim, you know, realities in Taiwan, and there are, but it's also a place of great joy and great democracy and a lot of things that are flourishing there. I was recently there 2 weeks ago, just in time to catch a 7.1 earthquake. Definitely the biggest earthquake I've ever been in, but even that was kind of fun. In any case, the latest in this series is called Dead Can't Make a Living. I've been trying to do something different with each book, and in this latest book, which is coming out in April, I contemplate the core of migrant workers who help keep Taiwan humming along. Like Japan and the United States, Taiwan has an aging population, and there are many occupations that can only be filled by migrant workers. People from Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, and sometimes these workers are not treated as well as they should be or that they can be in Taiwan and perhaps some other countries too. I would actually like to read a bit from it. Um, the protagonist, Jing Dan, who runs a skewer stand in Taipei, is kind of like a character that I contemplate what I would have been like had I been born in Taiwan, and I've given him my Mandarin name, which is Jing Dan. In this particular book, he never finished college, so now he's gone to night school in order to work on a degree, and it's not going so well. It's not quite back to school. It's a rather rough ride, and so he's coming back from his first night at night school to the night market stall, where he meets up with his friends and coworkers. During a break, I told Nancy, Dwayne, and Frankie about Mr. Chang and how he sort of humiliated me in front of the class. Sort of, said Dwayne. Fuck that guy. I would have put his head through the wall. You don't get recommendation letters by doing that, I said. I'll write my own letter and stamp it with the teacher's seal, which he probably has stashed in his top drawer. In Taiwan, an ink stamp of someone's seal is as legit as a signature. That does sound like a good plan, said Nancy. A little aggressive, though. Frankie stuck a cigarette in his mouth and grasped the liner of a trash can to take a round back to the shared dumpsters. Frankie, let me get those, I said. I haven't gotten a full workout tonight. Are you sure, Jingnan? Said Frankie. He took the cigarette out of his mouth and pointed it at my chest. I thought college boys didn't like to get their hands dirty. I'm no college boy. I'm a college man. I lifted the liners out of two trash cans and gauged their weight, making sure to hold them away from my body so skewer sticks had no chance of poking me. I'm glad you don't think you're above even the most menial jobs, said Nancy. I learned something from the guy who built McDonald's into an empire, I said. Whenever he saw someone standing against the wall doing nothing, he'd say, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. Then he'd hand them a broom or a rag to wipe off counters. You don't even have anything to lean against here, said Dwayne. Lean on this bag, tough guy, I said. That earned me a little smug smile. As I hauled away the bags, I noticed Frankie checking over our inventory, unlit cigarette still in his mouth. You're not going to light up, Frankie? Sometimes I need it there to think, he said. I gingerly brought the garbage bags around the back. The smell of ripe night market trash wasn't great, and I realized that Frankie probably lit up to mask it. As I approached the dumpsters, I saw a man sitting on the ground, his back up against the wall. It wasn't the first time I'd seen someone completely wasted. Sometimes younger people lose track of the number of beers they have. I toss in my garbage bags, and then I lean down to whisper to the man. I figured I would wake him up discreetly, help preserve some of his dignity. Sir, excuse me, sir. There was no response. I crouched down and shone the light from my phone in his face. He seemed to be in his late 20s and looked Filipino, but I wasn't sure. Sir, sir! I shook him gently, and his head slumped over, almost horizontal to his right shoulder. That shouldn't have been possible. I bolted upright and hugged myself. Then I watched my fingers dialing the local police precinct, and a few seconds later, I found myself woodenly telling an operator that there was a dead man in the night market. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. I was going to ask you to talk about your first book or your new book, which you have already done. Um, but I wanted to chat a little bit about the research because this is one of my favorite questions to ask authors that you did for this novel, specifically on foreign workers' rights in Taiwan. Can you talk about that research process and some of your findings?
Well, unfortunately, this is not a new issue. It's something that the major parties of Taiwan seem to bring up every election cycle and saying how they're going to change things. And then after the election, it just kind of fades in the background, along with many other issues. There have been a number of times. I try to go to Taipei every other year and like every thriving democracy, uh, there are often protests and gatherings in the streets by the president's office. And a couple of times I've seen migrants protesting for more time off. Uh, migrant workers didn't officially have a day off until several years ago, and now they're pushing for two, which I think would be fair. If you work as a domestic, uh, many times you will find yourself working for siblings, like not only for the family that you're contracted to work for, but also you're expected to go visit the relative's house and clean up as well. So sometimes you're facing an almost 24-hour workday. And if you work in a factory, uh, there are oftentimes really unsafe conditions. Um, it hasn't really made the news here, but there have been a series of fires in Taiwan factories, and that's due to unsafe storage of chemicals. There was a golf ball factory that had an explosion because they had combustible materials. You think golf balls, you don't think of combustible materials, but when you don't store things properly, accidents happen all the time. Um, I know someone who works in the entertainment industry in Taiwan, and like some other countries, organized crime is one aspect of the entertainment industry, and through that, I've interviewed quite a few people in organized crime. I should say that criminal organizations are not illegal in Taiwan. They actually own a lot of legitimate businesses. The thing is that if you are a member of a criminal group, you just have to register as being a member. Um, so, so, so I've heard a number of things that happen, and in the course of my research, I approach it as a journalist by just interviewing people, hanging out with them, trying to walk in their shoes, see what it's like, and people are people.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's obviously a very big part of this new novel, so I felt like we should talk about that a little bit, especially because you've done such extensive research. I want to switch gears completely here and talk about the food aspects of your novel, which we can't talk about your series without talking about the food. Specifically, I want to know a little bit more about quote, little sausages in bigger sausages uh, in this book. Can you tell us about this? And also, have you tried them and why include them here?
Oh, I have, of course, many times partaken of the little sausage in a big sausage. Uh, the thing is, the big sausage is not a meat sausage. The big sausage is a sausage of rice, and they are grilled along with the meat sausages. So the rice sausage is sliced open, and then the meat sausage is placed inside of it, and then it's wrapped up in wax paper, and it's so uh, greasy in the best way that foods are. Um, you need this wax wrapper on it, and you twist it from the bottom in order to push it up and eat it, like a greasy rice and meat popsicle. Uh, yes, there. Okay, I will confess something here as long as it doesn't go further than this conference call. I'm allergic to seafood. So in Asia, that's like, I'm totally ostracized. And like an Asian guy can't eat seafood is just crazy. But I do write about some things that I cannot eat, like the oyster omelet, which is like one of the national dishes of Taiwan. I've never tasted because it would cause me to stop breathing.
Hmm. Good thing to avoid then, I would say. Yes.
Yes,
That thank you, Ed. Yes, if you're looking for a crime series that also has some really tasty little morsels, but is incisive and very funny, the Taipei Night Market series might be for you by Ed Lin. Thanks for
awesome.
reading for us, Ed.
Thank you, Lily.
Marcie, I'm gonna popcorn over to you. Do you
All
wanna
right. Thank you.
talk about Cash?
Sure. Um, so I always introduce myself in Ojibwe. Buju, Awanakwe Indigenous Cause, Migizi Nito Dame, Gawa Babi Gani Kad in Dunjaba. My mentor was Jim Northrup from the Fond du Lac Reservation, and he said that anytime we can introduce the original languages of this continent, it would be a good thing to do. So I just said my name and my clan, and that I'm from the White Earth Reservation, which is in northern Minnesota. And I write the Cash Blackbear series. They are set in the Red River Valley in northern Minnesota. If you've ever heard of this town, Fargo, North Dakota, Fargo, Moorhead are twin cities right along the Red River. And on this side, on the east side, about 45 miles east from that is the White Earth Reservation. You go a little further north, and there's the Leech Lake Reservation. Go a little further north, the Red Lake. And if you go into the Dakotas, there's Turtle Mountain, Belcourt. Yeah. And the Cash Blackbear series is set in that part of the country. Back in the 1970s, it was called the breadbasket of the world because potatoes, grain, sugar beets. If you have white sugar, crystal sugar, it comes from the beet fields up that way. So in my novels, Cash is 19. She's aged out of foster care, and she grew up in foster care, which was part of this native story during that time here in Minnesota and the United States. And she's aged out, and Wheaton, the county sheriff, sort of rescued her from an abusive foster home. And so she's living in Fargo, going to school, but she's also using her connections and her intuitive abilities to help Wheaton solve crimes in that part of the country. So the books are set in rural. She works as a farm laborer and she's going to college. Anyone rural, which if you're on either coast, you don't understand the ruralness of it. So, like, you can spend all day driving from your farm into town or from the reservation into the town of Fargo to, you know, get a cup of coffee or to get a machinery part for your tractor. Um, so, there's a lot of travel throughout the series. I had one book club email me and say that not not Broken Fields, but Sinister Graves. They actually, the book club drove to Fargo and then followed Cash and went to the different places that Cash goes to in the book because they just initially had a hard time believing that people could go those distances. Um, so that was really cool to hear them. They were so invested in the story that they actually took that trip. Um, when the books are being used in college classrooms and high school classrooms to to teach about Native history, about the boarding school era, the foster care era, um, and that wasn't my intention in writing this series. Um, what I wanted to do was write a crime novel that those of you who read crime, like pick it up in 3 in the afternoon and can't put it down till 3 in the morning. That's the way that I read crime novels, and I was um, that's what I'm trying to write, not a history lesson, but they're serving a purpose also. Um, with Broken Fields, um, part of the story, well, I guess the main like drive of the story is there's a murder and there's a little girl who has witnessed the murder and she goes silent. Um, it unable to talk about it, and her mother and father are gone. And so Cash, while she's trying to solve who killed who, she's also trying to help this little girl not get sucked into the foster care system. Um, yeah, I am not going to read anything, I don't think. So, yeah, that's kind of it. Lily, did you have other questions that you wanted me to?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Marcie.
Thanks.
We were talking a little bit before we went live that the just about a year ago, you were here speaking with Ramona Emerson about Broken Fields, which was a really wonderful conversation that you can still listen to if you go back into the archive. But I was listening to it recently, and you said something about Cash that really stuck with me. You said that Cash was a combination of all of the Native women that you've ever known.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that a little bit and what you mean by that?
You know, there's so much conversation in the world about generational trauma, historical trauma for us as Native people. And one of the things that I always say is that we are way more resilient than we are traumatized. And when you look at Native communities, and even right now with what's happening here in the Twin Cities with ICE and all the horrible stuff that is happening, like at Little Earth Projects, it's the women who are organizing, it's the women who are protecting the communities there. Um, and with the issue of missing and murdered Indian women, it's Native women who stood up and said, "This is happening to our women. We're going to do something about it." And, like my entire life, it's been the Native women that have stood up and said, we need to do something. So, like, if anybody remembers the first Wounded Knee back in 1970s, it was the Native women from the Lakota Nation who said, things are bad, are happening here. Can we get some help? Which led to the first Wounded Knee occupation in 1970s. Um, and it was the women at Standing Rock who called for help to attempt to stop the pipeline from going through. Um, so Cash is like all these Native women pulled together, I did a book project with the women at Little Earth here after the George Floyd uprisings. And it was the women who had protected Little Earth projects, keeping out the National Guard, the Proud Boys, keeping their people safe in the projects. And I did a writing project with them where they documented their work, what they'd done during that time. And the oldest woman was like close to 80 years old. And the youngest woman was, just 17, 18. Um, and if you met them, you would just think, but when you hear the things that people have done, that women have done. So, anyways, that's what I've tried to pour into Cash.
It's just so beautiful to describe it that way, and I think reading her through that lens is really powerful. So thank you for talking about that more. That stuck with me when you first said it, and then listening back to it again, it stuck me again. So thank you. I do want to talk about, and we'll kind of talk about this, Naomi, when we talk to you too, but I'm really interested when authors set crime novels or horror novels, dark fiction in the place that they live or grew up in. Cash spends a lot of time in Minnesota, even though she does travel. What is your personal experience with setting a crime series in the place that you were born and raised?
Well, that's what I know. Like I never even lived in a city until I came to Minneapolis. So what I know is rural. What I know is that life. I, you know, I couldn't write a story about Paris or about even New York or Los Angeles. Those aren't my places. And I think that in the Cash series, place and the land, and I think for myself as a Native person, like this is where I'm from, Minnesota, it's what I know. And, they tell you to write what you know. So I do because I don't know those other places.
Yeah. No, it comes across, and I'm a Midwest native, so I do love reading places where I'm close to too. Thank you,
Yeah.
Marcie. If you're looking for a big-hearted, um, gritty but like all around badass protagonist, you will find it in Cash Blackbear. Um, Thank you for all of that.
Yes.
Naomi, I want to turn now uh, to you. Could you tell us a little bit about your series?
Sure. And let me just say it's an honor to be with Soho and these two other authors. I'm a big fan of Jinan and Cash both. And it's just so cool to have these very pungent characters. And they kind of become your friends, right? So you want to follow them through the series. So my series is called the Japantown Mystery Series. It starts off with this one. Um, because I love the cover so much. Clark and Division, which is set in 1944 Chicago, and which was a neighborhood that many Japanese Americans who were released from one of the 10 incarceration camps during World War II were released to. And so Clark and Division follows Aki Ito, the protagonist, and like Ed and Marcy's characters, she's a young adult. She's in her early 20s, and she comes through from Los Angeles to Manzanar concentration camp to finally Chicago. She and her family, they arrived there, and only to find that something has happened to her sister, her older sister. So it's up to Aki to find out what happened and to get justice. So that's pretty much the first book. The second book, the follow up, is this one. Number two is Evergreen. And this follows Aki as she goes to Los Angeles, and it's set in 1946. So Clark and Division and Evergreen, they're going to bookends talking about the Japanese American resettlement period. and it's told from Aki's point of view. Now, the book that's coming out next month, I'm really excited. I don't have the final book yet. I know that Lily has the hardcover, but here's my advanced reading copy. It's called Crown City. And I'm actually jumping back in time. This is 1903 Pasadena, which is where I'm sitting now, which is where I'm from. And and it is told from the point of view not of Aki Ito, she wasn't alive then, but actually the father of one of the minor characters that was introduced in the first two books. And he's known as Rui, and he's also a young adult. He's 18, and he comes from Yokohama, Japan. He's a carpenter to arrive to Pasadena, which is like the second oldest city in Los Angeles County, a very wealthy town. And he's here to work in the very popular kind of Asian or Japanese arts trade. And he's trying to figure things out. There's a lot of real life people in the book, and one of them is named Toshio Aoki, who was a very celebrated Japanese artist, the toast of the town. Every wealthy woman wanted a Toshio Aoki a mural, in their mansion. And Rui's kind of watching all these things and different manifestations of Japanese art. And that leads to the question, is this all cultural appreciation or is it cultural appropriation? So it's a deep dive, and of course it's a mystery. So there's a stolen painting, and through that there's kind of deeper issues that are investigated. But we call this book kind of like Japantown Abbey, or post Gilded Age Pacific Coast style. So it's a way for people to enter into a world. I don't write fantasy, but I think this is kind of a fantasy book in that it's a very different world that many people, even myself, was not that familiar with. So that's Crown City. So I'm ready for you, Lily.
Here I am. You stole all my questions.
Okay.
So we're just gonna chat for a second. Um, I was interested in yes, you expand the story of the Ito family over the course of your first two books in the Japantown Mysteries. And so you've kind of explained the connection to the Ito family in Crown City, but why did you decide to pick a new time period, and what was your impetus to kind of make this, for lack of a better word, like a standalone in the series?
It was kind of interesting what you asked Marcie about why she wrote about a place that she's from. And my answer is really different. And I think some of it has to do with kind of just like erasure of Asian, immigrant experiences in certain areas of California. And I've always been curious because I was born here in Pasadena, California, and home of the Rose Bowl and Rose Parade and all those kind of things. My dad was a gardener, and of course, that makes sense that there were a lot of people of color, domestics, that came to serve the wealthy population. But it was like, I don't know, it seems like our Pasadena's, like the Japanese American community is small, but it's been here for a very long time. And I've been kind of, wrestling, like, why do I feel so attached to this place? And I think actually the pandemic, it kind of forced me to like walk the streets and notice all the different, foliage, which kind of represents like immigrants, like these trees from different places that people brought to Pasadena. And I started really wanting to do a deep dive about kind of just the Japanese presence here in this town. And so this book was a discovery for me because I think we know a lot about the farmers that came, former rice farmers that came and helped build up, like the salad bowl of of the U.S., like over in Steinbeck country and even in places in Southern California. But we don't really hear about the artists and intellectuals that came at the turn of the 20th century. Many of them could actually speak English pretty well. So I thought that was really fascinating. And just being a creative myself, it was kind of refreshing to learn about this. And there's still conundrums, right? Because we work as artists, but I think we see it more maybe in the acting world. But do you promote stereotypes, or if you provide what the mass, that people want to see, but doesn't really reflect who you are? I mean, are you copying out? There's all these different issues, and but then we're people and we have to survive. So what do we sacrifice? So it was kind of interesting to follow Rui. He's fictional, right? But like Jingnan and Cash and Rui, they kind of come alive, our characters, and so in a way, his investigation in Pasadena was kind of helped me figure out who I am really as a Japanese creative as well.
Yeah, that's great. I want to talk about Pasadena and kind of what you are known for, more or less, is creating these immersive historical mysteries. And you kind of Easter egg these historical figures in there, which requires a lot of research. You yourself are an oral historian. Can you talk to us about the research process of this book and maybe some of the historical figures that folks can learn about when they read Crown City?
Yeah, it was interesting. There was a gentleman named Toranaga who there were many kind of like quote Oriental art goods stores in old Pasadena, and some were actually owned by Japanese immigrants, and one had made it big, recruiting Japanese immigrant laborers from Japan for the Southern Pacific. He made his fortune, and now he was, into other things. What was interesting is he went to Reno and married a white woman, brought her back, and then after some years they had a child, and they had a and this is the time of miscegenation. An Asian person cannot legally in California marry a white person. So it was just things like that. I was like I did not know, here. And it makes sense because Pasadena being a wealthy town, there's going to be people who are like big people who have dreams. They feel like, oh, I could really make it in America. Yet there's so many anti-Asian immigration laws. There's so many things um, that doors that kind of close on you, and I think that comparison or contrast is so fascinating. It's like today there's so much interest, like K-pop and Japanese sushi and all these things, but there's a virulent, anti-Asian kind of sediment, going on at the same time. So I find that super fascinating, and yeah, and it kind of goes to show when you go back in history, there's still things that haven't changed. I was for to be perfectly honest too, I picked Pasadena because I didn't know what was going to happen with travel and stuff during the post pandemic. And I figured, well, I have the Huntington Library right next to me, the Pasadena Museum of History, and all those places. They were very helpful in my research.
That's very real. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sure that that is a story for a lot of folks. Like the creative decisions people made during that time was a lot, probably. What's around me? Like, what can I access? If I can't access anything else. So thank you,
Yeah.
Naomi. Um, if you are looking for a historical series that is incredibly immersive and you will learn something, but you'll have a really fun time uh, working alongside the mystery, the Japantown Mystery Series is probably the series for you. I want to bring back Ed and Marcie. Folks, if you have any questions for Ed or Naomi or Marcie, feel free to drop them. I have a few just end cap questions I'm going to ask in the meantime. I always like to ask for recommendations from authors if folks are interested in what you write about, but maybe they've like made it through your books already. Do you have any series or movies or music that you recommend to as like a pairing to your series?
Hmm. I always recommend Ramona Emerson's Shutter and Exposure. Um, Another Native woman writing crime. Um, and like the last one was Exposure, where it was back and forth between two different characters, and yeah, yeah, it was a good read.
Um, I just got the arc and I'm so excited. Carrie Hakoda, she's a Japanese American writer, and her mystery, she has a mixed race detective that's in Alaska, and her second one is coming out, and I think it has there's some investigation, some connections to Japanese American history, so I'm really excited about reading that. And there was I don't know, Ed, if you saw this Kurosawa film. It's Kurosawa's son. What is it called? What you're muted.
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
I just said,
Well, you talk. I'm gonna look up that
wait,
movie because it was,
are you thinking of Kiyoshi Kurosawa?
yeah, it was the one set in Japan. Of course, he's not American, but it was like
Yeah.
this crazy crime movie, and nobody can handle a gun because guns are, supposed to be illegal in Japan, and they're
Wait,
just
are
like shooting
I'm
random.
no, the
Yeah,
film was called Cloud, right?
right. Cloud. That was it. I really
Love it,
loved it. I
love
don't
it.
know what you thought. Yeah.
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I Kiyoshi Kurosawa, I love his films, brilliant. And do you love Koreeda films?
I love Koda. Yeah.
You know
Hiro. Hiro.
yeah,
Go on.
you're a Koreeda. Like when I first watched his films, I was like, man, there was something really Taiwanese about this guy. Like just the feel of his films and the way that they looked cinematographically. And then I read this interview with him, and he wasn't born in Taiwan, but like either his parents or grandparents were, and he has great affection for Taiwan. And I was like, I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I love building little lists that folks can take with them if they want to do some like further digging. This is the worst question to ask. I ask it every time. I will always ask, what are you working on next?
Well, my writing process is that I can't really write one book at a time. I'm usually working on two or three books at a time. I'm always working on another Type A book. Um, I'm working on another book. I really hate talking about things that I'm working on, you know? It's like, as soon as I say something, it becomes kind of false, you know? And it kind of like dies and grays out in my mind a little bit. As long as it's only in my head, it can be colorful and boundless. And then just to speak it already imposes these limits upon it.
Hmm.
I'm just the opposite, Ed. I like to talk about things because I feel like people come up to me and they go, "Oh, I have something that could help you, in your research." And the one I'm writing right now is 1959 Los Angeles, and it's a gang and LAPD cop story. So super different, and it involves a character, Hammer, Ishimine, who was in the first two Japantown Mysteries, and it's told from two males, men's point of view, and I'm really having a blast.
Well, I'm working on book 5 in the Cash Blackbear series, which I feel like, given the state of the world around me and family crisis after family crisis, I feel like I'm just slogging through it, trying to get to the finish line. But I'm also working on 2 other standalones, and part of my process, what I've been doing recently is setting a timer, and I'll do 20 minutes on one, 20 minutes on the next, 20 minutes on the next. Because otherwise I just kind of get bogged down in worrying about what's happening right outside my house.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Yeah. Concentrated effort. I've heard that method is kind of the lazy Susan method where you're, you know, taking the circular tray and moving it. Yeah.
okay, okay. I didn't know there was a name for it.
Well, Marcy, how can you only work 20 minutes on something? That doesn't even cover my snack time.
I'm my typical process has been like 2,000 words a day and to just plow through.
Wow.
Um, but literally things have been so chaotic that I've had to devise another method.
Mm,
So that's
mm,
what I've been. And like when I'm doing a writing class, what I'll tell people is, and this comes from being a parent, I think, you got to quit,
Mhm.
like some
Yeah.
crisis is happening, you have to quit in the middle
Right.
of a sentence, and then when you come back, you have to finish the sentence because you can't keep going. So
mm,
there's never
mm,
really
mm.
writer's block. You just keep going. That's how I
Marcy,
do it.
can I ask you, because sometimes when it's been, yeah, I think there's two things. Like when the world is so chaotic, I have been immobilized. That's true, in terms of my own creative work. But there have been times when being able to be creative, has sustained me and empowered me at times. I don't know if you ever feel that way, but because who we are as writers, it's not just the writing, it's all these experiences, right, who
Mhm.
defines who we are. And I just feel like even if our story set in 1903 has nothing, directly to do with what's going on today, there's connections. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a whole big piece of my creative capacity has to do with everything that's happened to me in the world and things that are going on in the world. And writing has kept me sane in the middle of a lot of insanity.
Yeah.
Um, I think that this past year, there's been deaths, there's been, the like even while we've been on here, there were whistles blowing and helicopters flying over. So I mean it's like this immediate kind of
Hmm.
Mm.
stuff that hasn't really, I don't know, between people dying. I don't know how else to say it, between
It's a
people
lot.
dying.
It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot.
You know,
Yeah. I get it.
um,
I get it.
and having to really force my mind to go into that creative mode,
Hmm.
and what's the guy's name? Keller Manning, Swedish guy who wrote the Wallander series,
Uh-huh.
since
Yes.
passed. But when I read his books, I was like, oh
Ian
my God,
Keller.
yeah, this is like the main character is this depressed old white guy plodding through the snow of Minnesota or of Sweden. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You
you're like,
relate to him.
but I don't want that to seep into the work that I'm doing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Like how to
Oh, Henning
getting
Mankell. There you go.
Mankell, yes.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah. We knew
I
the
love his
Kell. There
work.
was Kell in there somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There
Oh,
was a poem the other day that I came across where it talked about and I experienced this before with the Vietnam vet where what this poem said is I want to write about flowers and love and happy songs, and what's pouring out is, protest. Um, so yeah, I think right now, me personally, I'm trying to walk that kind of fine line there.
mm. What would happen if people walked up to ICE officers with books and tried to hand them out and say, "I really love this book. Will you try this?"
I think something
There's
bad would happen to
things
you,
some
unfortunately.
people they are using illegal um, chemical warfare against people.
Mm,
They just took a 5-year-old to
mm,
Texas. I mean, this is not. Um, yeah, it's a hard time,
Mhm.
and there will be stories there. You know.
mm,
Yeah,
Uh,
different types,
yeah, yeah,
very different takes on what
yep,
we're all going through. Yep.
yeah,
Oh gosh. Well, I don't want to be trite, Marcy, but there are people in other places of this state that are standing up and doing
yeah,
things, and
yeah, yeah.
so I just wanted to say that.
We get to keep writing. We get to, my books are serving a purpose in terms of social studies or historical studies, but really, I want them to entertain people. That's been
Amen.
my goal all along.
mm.
No, that's important. Yeah, that's really important.
Thank you all for talking about that. And thanks everybody that's saying such positive things in the chat. I think it's really nice that we took that time to talk about that. Marcy, really thank you for being here today. We really appreciate your presence with us today. Very quickly, I suppose I have a few questions I want to turn to from audience members, and we'll announce the gift card winners. A question from Beth says, for Ed, will there be any more installments in the Robert Chow series? I've been holding off reading the third one, thinking maybe another one would be coming.
Oh, okay. I get why you're holding off on the third one because you don't want to read, the final book. I mean, I do that with some of my favorite writers. I still haven't finished reading all of Charles Willeford's books because I can't bear to think that I've read them all.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
reality of the marketplace is that that was the end of the series that anyone was willing to pay for. Uh, and all three books are still in softcover and what other form? Oh, ebook, published by Witness Impulse, a very small imprint of a penguin. Witness Impulse. It sounds like something that happens in the snack aisle at a supermarket, and you bought it like all this junk food. But not to mock them, I'm very grateful for them keeping it in print. For the foreseeable future, no, but I love that series. I wish I could.
And then one more question, Ed. Pauline asks, I can't believe criminal enterprises actually are not illegal. Is this so they can be taxed? What's the reasoning?
Well, they are taxed, and in places where criminal groups are illegal, they nonetheless thrive. In places such as the United States. But the thing is that criminal enterprises in Taiwan do not merely, do bad things. When there are natural disasters or other problems, like when there's a really bad earthquake or a really bad mudslide, first people on the scene are people in the criminal organization providing food, blankets. With
yeah,
they own the construction equipment to clear roads and to help people faster than any government bureaucracy ever could. And if you're going to shut that down, people will stand up for the rights of these organized criminal groups to continue operating and doing some bad to some people, but also helping other people as well. And some of these groups are, do have a criminal past, but unlike the Corleones, they went completely legit. So would these be outlawed, even though they employ a lot of people and, own cable stations and stuff? One of my criminal sources works at a cable station owned by a crime boss, and he says he's really nice. When we stay late, he buys us dinner and everything.
That's really interesting. Thank you for those questions. We always appreciate them. John also asked, Lily, can you assemble a list of the author's further reading suggestions for us? I love that idea. Let me see what I can do. I think that's great. Thank you all. Oh, one more. Naomi, I see a parallel to the situations with putting American citizens into camps with ICE current arrests. I'm surprised how many people have no idea what happened to Japanese Americans. How do you think we should highlight this repeat of history?
Well, there's been a lot of Japanese American activists who've been making that connection, and they've been going to some of these detention centers. Some of them actually held Japanese Americans and are being used to hold people today. And I think, just I didn't watch it, but I guess there was a podcast recently that highlighted Japanese American. What was the one? I forgot her name. Rachel Maddow recently highlighted it. So I think people are talking about it. So that's good. The thing I guess that's frustrating, and maybe frustrating for you all too. We're like very up to date about issues that have gone on throughout the decades. And suddenly there've been, finally when they're on a certain platform, like people are finally talking about it and they're asking me, did you know about this? Hello, I've been writing about this. I worked at the newspaper. I've been,
It's not funny.
but you know what I mean? And that's the only frustrating part of it. But, you've heard these stories yourself. I'm saying whoever wrote this, but yeah, just talk about it with your friends. And, I think that's the best way to have these conversations face to face with people. Hey, you know what I've been reading, or have you heard about this? I mean, I think that's so powerful right now, especially in this weird time of AI and fake news. Just having face to face conversations with people can be super powerful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. That's great. And just to take one more time to say thank you all for having this. I know we're all kind of looking for something that's light and makes us forget what's going on, but I think it's really important to talk about this stuff. And I can't imagine three better people to sit here and talk so eloquently about it.
Right. We want to entertain people. That is our goal.
Why not both?
No, you're
Why
right.
not both?
But yeah, we could just write textbooks if we wanted to. But yeah, we want to infiltrate through entertainment.
Yes.
Right? We
Both.
wanted to be the sinners. We're writing sinners for you.
Very quickly before everybody logs off, we have 3 gift card winners today. The first $25 gift card is going to Alexis Shirk. Thank you for being here. Excuse me. The $50 gift card is going to Beth Thomas. Thank you, Beth. And then our $75 gift card to Mystery to Me Books is going to Sue Weatherby. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Mystery to Me and Elizabeth, for keeping us on the air. Marcie, Ed, Naomi, thank you so much. I really needed this afternoon. I appreciate your time. And congratulations on your books, new and old.
Cool.
We're excited to see what you guys do next. Thanks, everybody. Have a good
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, y'all.